culture, and culture is key to establishing and even more so expanding the heart of growth within an organization. And I actually had to define this one time working with an organization because they were struggling. And so I wrote, culture is the result of a positive or negative alignment around a shared purpose, further unified by common values that spreads throughout all departments of the organization. That's my take. What's your take on this? How would you define culture from your point of view?
It really is simple to me. It's safety. That's the
Mm,
ideal culture to me. So if I can answer this question easily, it's, do people feel safe in their differences, in their diversity? Do people feel safe in sharing their ideas? Do they feel safe in sharing if they've made a mistake, right? Like, can they come to you and say, hey, I really screwed up on this, but I feel safe that you're gonna, help me get through it and give me the tools and the communication I need to get this fixed. Do they feel like they have a voice without being scared? So they can come to you really about anything. If they are struggling mentally, right? Or maybe they're going through a divorce or something like that, can they say to you, hey, I need to take a mental health day? I'm really struggling and, I just need your support on this. So really the culture to me is, can I feel safe? Can I create a place of safety? If I can say yes to that, then we're definitely at a good start. And then I also think it's the little things, right? Remembering someone's birthday, remembering, that they have an anniversary coming up. If they talk to you about a personal situation and you follow up with them to check in and see if they're okay, it really is that sense of safety. When you talk about warmth, it's safe, feels warm,
yeah.
right? And then it also, just it really is the little things that you pick up on and that you celebrate and that you support within your organization.
What's your take on this? And I love your definition because it's way more simple than mine. When you can define something in one word, safety. Um, why might sometimes an organization have a culture where individuals, or teams even, they don't feel safe? What happens in that situation? How do we even get to that point to begin
Yeah,
with?
it definitely comes from above,
Okay.
right? If the leadership is projecting this
Mm,
level of safety, if they see them interacting with other people, it also comes from pressure, right? If there's people are under stress, they have deadlines, they have revenue targets, all of these things that they have to meet, there becomes this sense of aggression and stress. And I'm going to, be vulnerable here. I'm definitely a highly sensitive person. And with that comes this sense of exceptional sensory and feeling energy. And I can sense that energy when my leaders are stressed, my team is stressed. And so I think it mainly is, if there's a lack of safety, it's this pressure from the organization. It comes from this top down and it projects this negative culture to the rest of our team.
it's interesting. You're talking energy here. I recently had David Dibbles on the podcast, who wrote a book about the 4 new agreements for the workplace. And we were talking about this perspective of energy. And even in my definition, I talked about culture being the result of positive or negative alignment. Maybe we reframe that: culture is the result of positive or negative energy, which comes back to this idea of safety and security. And this gets into a deeper perspective around empathy. I recently did a keynote on the subject of quote unquote digital empathy at an industry event, and I say empathy and culture, particularly through your definition being safety, they go hand in hand together. What opportunities do you see through your lens of where empathy can be integrated into two sides of the coin? First and foremost, internal employee experiences. Maybe we go a little bit deeper into that. But then I also want to go to the external side, empathy from the account holder. But I I think empathy has to begin within, if we're talking about culture and safety, where are the opportunities? So, for example, someone who's listening, they might identify with, I don't feel exactly safe and secure with where I'm at right now. Okay. Um, what do we do to transform that? Particularly, like you said, it starts at the leadership level, but how can we transform that negative perspective into a more positive and hopeful one?
Yeah, I love that. And going back to what you mentioned about your podcast where you talked about the new agreements, and I remember you and Aubrey specifically talking about this, I love you, right? Like, why can't we say I love you? We know we spend enough time with our peers, and I take it even a step further. And when you talk about empathy internally, but also with our customers, like, why can't we love our customers? Why can't we create this personal connection? I have found that success, whether it come to my customer relationships or my peers or my team, it's this: they feel safe, they feel loved. You know, if one of my employees was going into surgery today and I literally said, I love you, I hope everything goes okay, right? Like, where did this stigma come from that, we can't say this? How can we really change it from this, like, I I from a human connection to this personal connection, and allow things to um, develop into a more beautiful experience, right? And I always look at, I want to be the person, from a leader, from a mentor, from a consultant, whoever it may be. I want to be that person that I needed when I was going through that,
Yeah.
right? So if I'm dealing with a customer, what did I need when I was on the other table? I need them to listen. I need them to communicate with me. I need them to show compassion when we're talking about challenges, or, our goals not being met together. We have to come together, be empathetic, with everyone in our lives, and show that concern and love. It's not it I'm the type of person that will understand and know my customers' kids, know they're going on vacation. How was your vacation? I hope you had a great time. Happy Thanksgiving, happy Father's Day. Whatever we have to do to create those connections, and then I think it creates the empathy as well as a better customer experience.
Oh, it's
There's a lot.
there's a lot, and I appreciate it because you're tapping into something that I wrote about in Banking on Digital Growth. And it's something that I'm finding myself coming back to through the education and coaching that I'm doing with financial brands. And it's the pyramid of human relationships. The pyramid of human relationships. And when I work with leaders, even I was at my kids' school recently doing an entrepreneurship day or career day. And I was talking about entrepreneurship and talking about public speaking. And I ask the kids, just like I ask leaders, I say, well, what's at the foundation of every positive human relationship? And 95% of people that I've asked this question to will say it's trust. And I go, you're on the right path, but it's not trust. We need something before we can have trust. And they say, well, what is that? I say it's respect. And respect is focusing on the other, if you will, respecting the other for who the other is, meeting them where they're at. In the case of the eighth graders at this career day, I shook everyone's hand when they walked through the door. I looked them in the eye and I asked them what their name was, and I introduced myself. And then I called them by name. And we use that as an example. That's a handshake. We're recognizing the other person for the other person's humanity.
Mhm.
Well, then we go to the pinnacle of the pyramid of human relationship. And what do we have? To your point, it's love. Love
Mhm.
is commitment. Love, and I love the way that this is defined by Thomas Aquinas, it's willing the good of another human being. So I can tell you, I can tell anyone, I can tell the listener, I love you because I will the good. I want the good for you. I want the best for you. And I mean that from my sincerity.
Mhm.
Okay, so how do we get from respect to that place of love? That's where trust comes back into play.
Mhm.
Trust, security, built upon two things. It's what you say, it's what you do, it's words and actions. Now, I'm curious though, since we're talking about empathy, love, the touchy, soft subjects here. Why might empathy and love, and we're talking about the heart of growth even, why might these subjects be challenging to talk about within the vertical of financial services? Why do we shy away from it sometimes?
I think it's something we're taught, right? I mean, from a young age, and especially with the age of like us in the workforce and HR rules and stuff like that. We don't want to blur those lines of what's appropriate and what's not appropriate, and that's definitely not what I'm saying, right? It shouldn't that love shouldn't pass over to this uncomfortable situation. I in my interactions and engagements, I'm more of that emotional, thoughtful person. Like I want to, in order for me to understand and have that respect and trust,
Yeah.
I have to understand and dive in a little bit. And I had a situation where I was doing that, and somebody came to me and said, "Hey, I don't feel comfortable with this. I feel more like we need to be on this, peer to peer, like very business relationship." And so it doesn't always work for everyone to take that approach. So it is challenging, right? And it's not something that I think can be taught. It's something that has to be viewed, and we have to, as leaders, use that with our employees, and they watch and they learn and they listen. It's not like we can say, "Hey, James Robert, I need you to be more empathetic." They're going to be like, "What does that mean?" Like, that's
Right.
not inherently natural to me. So we have to set a good example of it in our organizations.
Yeah.
If we're having challenges with our peers, right? You come into a relationship or a meeting, and you know that there's going to be tension. The meeting topic is already stressing you out before you even clicked on the Zoom link. If you can enter that and ask, "Hey, how's your daughter doing?" Or "How was this situation? I saw you post about this," and just create that human connection that immediately creates this like empathy, and I think puts people in this like, "Okay, my guard is down and I can be more open with you."
Yeah. And I'm glad you brought that up, because this, once again, it comes down to, if you it's in a place and someone feels a bit uncomfortable with that type of thinking. And once again, I want to redefine my perspective here around love is to will the good of another person. Well, if they're feeling a bit uncomfortable with whatever the situation is, I have to come back to respect. I have to meet them where they're at. But you bring up a really great point about, starting a meeting or starting a challenging conversation, something that we might feel uncomfortable about. This is the whole reason that we have the "what's going well" method. We start off, and just like this podcast, tell me something good, tell me something positive, because I know I can positively influence the discussion. And I've had leaders that come to me and were like, my team, the morale, it's down, we're struggling. I said, "Well, have you asked them what's been going well, or do you just kind of get in and get down to business?" And like, no, we just get down to business. And I was like, "Well, does it start off on a positive or negative foot?" "Well, it's negative." "Okay, well, let's take a step back. What if we reframed it? Ask what's been going well. We start off on a positive note, but I know you do something very unique as well, to reframe maybe some challenging situations, and it's humor. Humor can be the anecdote to some uncomfortable situations and some uncomfortable conversations. So, how can you humor me with humor in this conversation?"
So do you actually want to hear something amazing about my grandmother?
Of course.
Okay. So she lived to be 98 and never used glasses.
Wow.
She always drank straight from the bottle.
Oh my. Okay. So this is not set up. I'm loving where this I love little punny jokes like this. They're just fun. Even to the point to where for Father's Day, my kids made me a dad's joke book. They went on the internet, found all these dad jokes and printed them out and put them in a book. And I have that. It's on my shelf. I love stuff like, where did you pull this from? This idea of
That
humor?
That joke actually came from my husband, so I'm going to give him credit for that one. He told me that, and I was like cracking up. Right? You just think about this old granny that's drinking, a whiskey straight from the bottle. So
Yeah.
I'll give him the credit there. But I get uncomfortable when I'm in tense situations. I'm non-confrontational. It's something that I hate. So I've had to build these kind of walls and defense of
Mm.
that. And if I can bring either empathy, if I can bring something funny to the table, something that connects us, it helps me break down those barriers of something that I'm anticipating being confrontational or maybe negative. So if I go to present, right, and I'm presenting in front of my entire company, a joke helps me kind of relax and go, okay, now that they're going to be more open to what I have to say and and hearing my perspective and my message.
Well, it's important because, the other day, um, I don't know if you saw this on the news. A police officer pulled over an elephant.
Really?
Yeah. And you know what the police officer asked the elephant?
Don't.
What's in the trunk? So there's one you can take. There's one you can take forward.
Yes, that's a good one. I have not heard that one. So,
I made that was one I made up. I didn't hear it anywhere. It was just we were hanging around with yeah, we were hanging out with the kids
oh,
and
wow.
I made it up. And the kids that wouldn't land. There's like 99 that you probably will never ever hear because they just don't land with the kids. That one landed with the kids. I was like, okay, that's the safe one that I can take out into the public place and share that. So take that
Yeah.
forward, do good with it.